And welcome to The Outsiders. I am Josh Gross, joined as always by Jeff Sherwood. Thank you. Yeah, Jeff. Thank you for subscribing. Appreciate you all for doing that. If you are just checking us out on Periscope right now or on YouTube, you found us, subscribe. Also hit the notification link. It'll tell you when we're having our next show. We got a good one this week, Jeff. We'll recap about as dominant a UFC championship victory as you can get with Deiveson Figueiredo. We will talk about the return of Bellator with Scott Coker. I think it's the first guest we've ever had on this show. It was just always you and me, right? We've never had a guest, have we?
Yeah, I don't think we ever even had one back when we started.
No, it's just you and me BSing about stuff. So Scott Coker will be on at 6:45. So again, if you're not watching this live, no sweat. Scott Coker will be on in about 15 minutes. We'll talk about the return of Bellator. It's at Mohegan Sun this Friday. It's actually a really good fight card. Maybe not like from an entertainment or name perspective, but the fights themselves are solid. And they've got some names people might know. And then we'll look ahead to the UFC card here coming up on Saturday. The return of the Reaper, Jeff. Robert Whittaker's back at it, taking on Darren Till, so that should be a good fight. First things first, I mean, we have a new UFC flyweight champion. Deiveson Figueiredo defeats Joseph Benavidez. I mean, as soundly as you can get it, right? That was about among the most dominant UFC title wins you'll ever see. I mean,
it was
hard pressed to remember one as dominant as that.
Yeah, it was. I was a little surprised. Joseph did good in round one of the first fight, but there was really no signs of that, and you just have to wonder. Joseph's been doing this a long time, and he's had a lot of shots at gold, and it just hasn't worked out for him. So, you kind of wonder what his thinking is. Obviously, he's still going to fight, I'm sure, but I mean, to be brutally honest, I just don't see him getting a title shot again. I mean,
so
let's be real.
Let's talk about that. So you see this as the last time that Joseph Benavidez gets a title shot. This was his fourth. He's 0-4. Nothing wrong with that. He came up short. He deserved every shot he ever got, but just didn't win that strap. But this is the last time for him, you think?
I mean, I guess if he gets like 5, 6, 7 wins in a row, but I mean, I don't know. You know that since he's 0-4, there's always going to be that, well, maybe this fight's better. Even if he does deserve it again at one point, you always have to think, oh, well, he's had 4 shots and didn't do it. Now there's this new guy, this new kid, let's give him a shot, I would think. But, I don't know.
35, been around the block. I mean, you can tell that his athleticism is deteriorating a little bit, and obviously not taking the shots that he used to take. Of course, Deiveson Figueiredo is about as big a puncher as maybe you're going to get at 125 pounds. It seemed like every time he hit Joe, he hurt him. Super impressive. Do you know a lot about Deiveson Figueiredo, Jeff?
I really don't. I really don't. But
he might be the most interesting man in the world.
What? No,
he might be the most interesting man in the world.
In the world.
Okay,
let's hear it.
So
what am I missing?
He happens to be an amazing mixed martial artist, right? And he's fun to watch, and he cracks and he hurts people. He's also like a sushi chef, like legit like sushi chef, and he likes being in a hair salon. He does ladies' hair. So he's who else knows what he's doing, but like we only know him because he's a fighter. But I saw this video going around. There's some pieces about him, and he just seems to be like kind of a Renaissance man, doing whatever he wants, doing it well too.
Does he use that to pick up women, or does he actually?
I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't tell you what he does as far as that goes. He just does the hair.
What does a sushi chef entail? I mean, like he rolls.
You've had sushi, right?
No, I don't even want. Don't you remember when we went to Japan? I was one of the few people. It was like me and Quentin were the only ones that really didn't eat sushi.
Yeah, you put ketchup on your sushi. Well, look, with sushi, I mean, you've actually never sat down and had seen a roll or had seen it how it's made or anything. It's very intricate.
Well, I did go to the all-you-could-eat sushi in Japan that time, and they were eating horse meat and
conveyor belt.
Right. Yeah. And they were trying all those weird meats and everything. And I remember Oyama and all those guys tried horse meat. I was kind of bummed out. None of them turned out to be like over him, but
I don't know anything about horse meat and sushi, but apparently Devison will make you a nice California roll if you ask him.
Is that really sushi?
Yeah,
California roll really sushi?
I mean, I don't. It depends who you're asking.
Like I could get that at Save Mart, like at the grocery store.
You can get all sorts of stuff there. I mean, I don't see why not. Anyhow, Deiveson Figueiredo, tremendous fighter, which is why we're talking about him. Is he enough? Like the way that he won that fight, the potential of him. Do you see him as someone who can bring new life to that weight class? Is that did it ever? I mean, Demetrius Johnson could never sell. I think Henry Cejudo kind of captured people's imaginations. Then he left. Deiveson Figueiredo, he needs an opponent, but is there any life in that weight class for the fans, for the people?
I don't know. I don't see Deiveson being like, a fan favorite or anything. And maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, I'm just saying, looking inside, I mean, it's going to be really hard. If Demetrius Johnson really couldn't bring tons of fans to that weight class, I think it's going to be very hard for anyone to do it. I mean, the only way that Henry Cejudo did it was because most people, the cringe thing. I mean, as long as people are talking about you, right? So he seemed to kind of use that. I don't think that there was a huge fan base out there that when Henry Cejudo announced his retirement, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm done with MMA. I think most people were like, okay. And let's move on. Really, I mean, so I don't know. I don't know if it's just the division. I hope not, but I just don't see somebody that's going to bring the fans into that division. Now, I like the division. I've always loved watching Demetrius Johnson fight, but it seemed like I was one of the few.
I was right there with you. Look, I think there are promotional challenges at 125. I remember when the discussion was, the small guy, the lightweights can't sell, the lightweights can't sell, and the featherweights can't sell, and the 135, forget about it. I mean, it just takes one, and it takes the right kind of fight. It's a hard weight class to really promote, I think, for the UFC. I'm glad they've not axed it. I think there's a lot of really great mixed martial artists there. And now Deiveson Figueiredo is top of that weight class. There's some good challenges for him.
Well, the next one
there was talk about Cody Garbrandt coming down, Jeff. I don't like that at all. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. There are some fighters in that weight class that deserve that shot, and I think
Alex
Perez, others. I mean, there's others, and they're coming. So if the UFC is going to continue with this weight class, it's not a weight class that Bellator wants any part of. So there are fighters this size overseas in Japan and one, but the UFC can really have the stranglehold on this weight class if they want it. And I think it's on them. I think it's on them if it's worthwhile. We shall see. The rest of the card, did anything jump out to you? There were some nasty leg locks. Of course, Jack Hermanson beats Kelvin Gastelum with a heel hook. Beautiful finish, beautiful way of locking in that leg lock. Great finding the other leg to prevent Gastelum from escaping. And then Ariel Lipski with that really nasty knee bar. It reminded me of the Miletich Alessio arm bar. You remember that, Jeff?
Yeah, that was painful. And poor Alessio. I mean, he was just a kid at the time, right? Wasn't he like 19?
Yeah.
Like 19 years old or something. Yeah. So kind of sucked for him. But oh man, it looked painful. I was really expecting better things from Gastelum, but it never really got a chance to materialize. I think that was going to be a very good fight. Not that it wasn't, but it never really got to play out. I was looking forward to that fight. I was looking forward to a long, hard fight from both guys, and we didn't get it, but we got a nice submission.
So, what do you make of Gastelum now? I mean, he gets caught. He has these amazing performances. You can't deny the fight he had with Israel Adesanya and others. But he's a guy that's like begging for a new weight class. He's just not going to get it. He can't make 170, and 185 is probably just, he doesn't have the body size, the style to really do it. But that's kind of crazy considering that he pushed Adesanya as much as he did. I mean, it really depends kind of stylistically. Adesanya was not going to grapple with him. So, where does Kelvin go? He's always criminally underrated, and like he seems to be better than people give him credit for. But then he gets that shot, and it doesn't quite happen to him. What do you see for him?
He did look like he came in very good shape.
Yeah.
And like I said, we never got to see it, materialize. And who knows if that submission doesn't happen that quickly, we could be talking, about Gastelum here, about what a great performance he had. So, like they always say, this is fighting and anything can happen. And it did happen. But, the one thing I did notice in the short amount of time in the fight was that Gastelum looked like he was in very good shape. So I was excited, and then it was just over before it really got started.
Where do you put Hermansson now in this division? Clearly a big win for him. He's a guy that, I think after that Cannonier fight, maybe people were taking some stock of like how, where is Hermansson really? He was on a nice run. The Jacare Souza fight was thoroughly impressive. But that Cannonier just Jared Cannonier is a really good fighter, and I look forward to seeing him back when he's healthy. So is Hermansson like elite in that weight class? He's talking like he is. I mean, is he someone? I think styles make fights. Could he be a stylistically dangerous fight for an Adesanya in a way that maybe others aren't?
I want to say yes. I mean, he has rose to occasions. I mean, this fight was great. He seems very strong, tough, good and all aspects of fighting. And we'll see. I mean, him against Adesanya, I mean, I'm game. I'll watch it. I'll definitely be up for that fight.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like we got Paulo Costa against Adesanya next.
Right.
And that's a pick'em fight. That's a pick'em fight. There's some reason to suspect that Adesanya is too savvy for Costa, who's really just kind of like pulling a China shop.
Right.
But with that kind of physical ability, that kind of forward pressure, he can stand up to a lot of damage. That's a great fight, and that looks like that's next. But otherwise, the weight class is kind of you can spin it a few different directions here.
Yeah, we'll see. We've seen, not that Costa isn't great. Everything that he's done has been great, but we've seen guys like that move up fairly quickly and do great things, and then get in there against somebody like Adesanya and have issues. So we'll see that I think that's one of those fights that is going to, we'll know a lot more about both guys when that fight's over. And either way, a win or loss by either one of them, we're going to learn a lot about both guys in that fight.
Yeah. The rest of this card here, going down through some of the highlights, we referenced the leg locks. Rafael Fiziev, I mean, that was pretty darn impressive against Mark D. Casey.
It was. That was a good fight. I really enjoyed that fight.
I think most people would be in traction if they try to defend kicks the way that Fiziev did, right? I mean, just bending back like that, and that was some Matrix stuff. That was pretty wild. And then you're talking about contenders at 125. Askar Askarov beating Alexander Pantoja. That's a good win. Pantoja's a good fighter. There was other fights up and down the card, some young fighters, prospects. Arman Sakurian, I think, got a lot of attention on this card, beating Davi Ramos. That's not an easy win right there. So it was a good night of fights for the UFC, and they'll be back this weekend on Saturday. That's the return of Robert Whittaker and Darren Till and Mauricio Shogun Hua and a bunch of other fighters that we would know and be interested in. We're waiting on Scott Coker. Scott Coker's supposed to join us here at 6:45. I tested this out earlier with Scott, so I know that he is going to be able to connect with us, and I'm sure he'll do it shortly. Let's jump into this idea of Bellator returning. Last week we talked about sort of the global MMA coming back, right? And it really was happening. I know you don't watch any other sports, but other sports were happening too. But globally, like, MMA is really kind of coming back. And I think this is a sign that Bellator at Mohegan Sun on Friday, I think they've got a good card. I don't know how you feel about it necessarily. This is, this is it. Ricky Bandejas against Sergio Pettis is a good fight. Really good fight.
That's a good fight.
Jordan Main's a guy that people loved watching the UFC. He was super exciting, right? He's taking on Jason Jackson. And Main came over as a free agent. Taiwan Claxton, who's excellent, undefeated until he was in that featherweight tournament, taking on J.J. Wilson. And Claxton's super dynamic, and I look forward to seeing him fight every time. Then Aaron Pico, taking on Solo Hatley Jr. Pico's a guy who's trying to reinvent himself, Jeff. What do you make of Pico and sort of that experiment? He's now managed by Ali Abdelaziz. He's training in New Mexico, spending a lot of time working with the trainers there. People were so quick to write him off. I think it's probably too soon to do that. How do you feel?
You say people were so quick to write him off. People were so quick to write him in as the next star. Well, it goes both ways, right? He was supposed to be the next big thing. And,
when you have Bob Cook saying that he was the greatest prospect he's ever seen in his life,
right?
How could you not sort of have that expectation about him? You have to.
Yeah, It just seems I'm wondering where he is mentally. So I didn't know that he was now managed by Ali. So apparently he's not. He dumped Zinkin, huh? Because that's where he was before, right?
Yeah, he was. I think with his dad, and he went to Zinkin, and then he's now with Ali. And he talks super highly of Ali. Ali has mapped out a game plan for the next stage of his career. They're all about taking time and sort of reassessing and reinventing. And you say this about Ali, and he's kind of can do the reclamation project thing. He's done that. Mm-hmm. And he knows talent. He can ID talent and put them in good spots to be successful. So I think I think that's what he's done. We can talk to our first guest ever on this podcast is Scott Coker. Scott joining us now. Scott, how are you?
I'm just going to try to fix my face over here. How about that?
Fix your face, Scott.
Boy, talk about the OG crew right here, huh?
We are the OG crew. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Congratulations on your launch, boys. This is really cool.
Thank you. It is cool. We're Jeff and I are excited to be doing it. And I don't know if you heard, you're actually the first. We used to do this podcast on Patreon, which is people had to pay for it. And, it was just Jeff and I BSing. We never had a guest. So you're the first guest we've ever had on this podcast.
It's an honor. Listen, I've been following you guys' career for 30 years or 25 years.
About
so
that.
I should be the first guest.
You should, yeah. Well, we're glad to have you. And you must be excited for Friday. Bellator's returning at Mohegan Sun. It'll be on Paramount Network and simulcast on DAZN, correct? That's official now?
Yeah, that's official. And, that's just something that, we were waiting for them to basically get up and going again. And, unfortunately, they have a fight that they're promoting on Friday night, boxing fight. And but the fans can still see the simulcast on DAZN as well. But the broadcast partner, of course, is Paramount, 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, 9 p.m. Central. Really, it's like I'm really excited about this fight because Bandejas is no joke, and Pettis is no joke. These guys are going to go in there and scrap, and the whole card is built with some young guys that can go out there and really have a lot to prove. And Aaron Pico is another guy that I'm really looking forward to see what he's got because it's a different scenario for him now, where he's been out in Albuquerque with Jackson's for a while and away from his home base and all the things that happen, being comfortable at home are not there for him in Albuquerque. And so it's all about training. And I heard he's getting better and better. And I'm looking forward to seeing a new and improved Aaron Pico.
Scott, what was it like when you started to build this card up? Here we are in a pandemic. And, I'm just wondering, what was the reaction of the fighters? I know a lot of fighters probably, want to get in there and fight, but were there any fighters that basically said, you know, I'm not ready. I need some more time. Haven't really been able to get to the gym as much as possible. Because what's the situation been like?
Yeah, you know, we did tell the fighters, like, look, just start getting ready, start training. And that's a tough ask, right? Because we can't give you a date yet. We're still going through passing protocol, compliance, you know, things that, you know, not with the commission only, but also the parent company, and to make sure that, you know, that we're in compliance with the hotel rules and regulations there at the Mohegan Sun. So we had, you know, 3 or 4 different people that we had to make sure that we were all under compliance and had a system and a protocol to, you know, to march out on, and make sure that we did everything we could to keep the fighters, you know, health and safety first, right? So I think we accomplished that. And but the fighters, we told them, hey, just relax, just chill out. We'll let you know. But this is kind of the time frame, and that's tough, man. And you know what? Not one fighter complained. Not one fighter said, hey, you know what? This is BS. You know, sometimes the managers get in your ear, and then, you know, it's just how it is, right? It's just the nature of the business. And so, but the fighters want to fight. I can tell you that. We want them to fight, but we want to make sure that everything is right for them to fight. The environment is right. The testing procedures are right. The protocol is right. And I'll tell you, if I send you this document, which I can't, unfortunately, but it is literally like a lunar module landing. You know, like the thing is about, you know, 2 inches thick of protocol issues, and how to, you know, even how are you going to go check your temperature every day, in what direction, you know, how about the gym? We set up a gym, the fighters training, the different, you know, everything was thought through. And, you know, I think our guys did an amazing job. And this is not our core business, but you know what? We want to be back in business. So we made it our core business to be in the, you know, post-COVID-19, you know, athletic scenario. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is that if you want to be in the business today, you will have to test your athletes multiple times, and you will be in the COVID testing business, and you will be in the COVID business overall. So, you know, we've embraced it, and I think we provided a great opportunity in the sense that it's a very safe environment. And it's like a bubble. Other people have bubbles too, but I like our bubble the best.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I mean, has it helped? I mean, the UFC's been going. You guys have been able to sit back and watch how the UFC's doing things, and, you know, take notes and be like, no, we need to do this different than they're doing it. I mean, has that kind of helped a little bit by watching from the sidelines?
Well, listen, honestly, it's like, you know, of course, because, you know, there are playbooks out there, but also Bob Arum's playbooks out there. And people, you know, are sharing the information. I'm sure our information got back to them as well. But, you know, it's at the end of the day, I don't mind, because to me, this is an industry, not just one league. This is an industry that needs to get back out there, become healthy, get back on its feet, and get these fighters fighting. And that's really the primary goal.
Scott, you know, you're not in the business of testing for diseases. You're not in the business of making sure that fighters have to be completely healthy. Like, you know, like you've had fighters show up and have the flu, and you don't have to worry about it. They're still going to fight. This is a different thing. So, like, how long did it take to get the protocols up and running? And how long did it take to say, well, Mohegan's the place we're going to end up and not California? Because there was discussion about California doing it. Like, what, to get July 24th to be done, how far out did you have to plan for it?
I mean, it was, I would say, Josh, honestly, it took about a month. You know, a month of just really going at it and going back and forth. And, you know, it's like, you know, the parent company is dealing with this on multi-levels, because they have film studios they're getting back and trying to film film TV shows, let's say. And they have multiple businesses that are trying to get back and start re-engaging and getting back into business. And so I think we're one of the first ones. I know golf on CBS launched, and I think we're one of the first ones in the company. And this is something that, Josh, when you're talking, you know, about the parent company and the, you know, the compliance issues and things like that, we talk to them every day. You know, if something happens, we let them know this is working, this is not working. You know, and this protocol will change, because now we're seeing it in practical application. And it's doing great, but we want to make it the best. So, I think by our next fight, we'll have it dialed in, and we'll be ready to even take it to a higher level of compliance.
So what's the next fight? What's the schedule? Do you have anything mapped out? I mean, we know the UFC schedule. They're talking about fights into September and October now. How often will Bellator go, and what's the next one?
Well, I think the schedule, it's pretty much out there, and I could tell you this is what we're shooting for: is August 7th, August 21st, September 11th. I think we're due to fight on September 12th. And then maybe even one more fight in September. Hasn't been launched, but we'll do 5 or 6 fights between now and the end of September. And I'm sure you guys already know that, Showtime and Bellator are sharing the same venue. And so we are using the same production equipment and using the same lighting and the union crew. And basically it's a collaborative event in the sense that we're working together for the first time since the merger, and we were going to do something earlier, but COVID-19 hit, and that put a pause on everything. But we are. I saw the pictures of the studio inside the studio today, and it looks pretty amazing. I can't wait to bust out some pictures for tomorrow, maybe of the venue, inside the venue, and how it's going to look and everything. But basically, it's like a built-in soundstage within the arena. And that's kind of what it's going to look like.
Are you going to be there the entire time? Are you going to be in and out of the bubble? How are you handling it?
Yeah, we're gonna, the whole staff will be probably in and out at some point because, like, there's Labor Day weekend for sure. No one's going to be around because there's no one there, and our fight will probably be, 2 weeks, the 21st, and then so it'll be a 2-week gap. So I don't think the staff should hang around, but we definitely will have it on lockdown. And, the venue is great because the arena, we're using it as a one-stop shop. And, basically the fighter can come down there and he can train. He can, work out. He can, when I say train, like we have treadmills and some weights and stuff and things that they can grapple and, mats. And then they can come down there. It's our staff production offices. So basically, once you go into the arena, that's the bubble, and once you go into it, that's where everything happens, right? And the testing procedures, everything goes on down there. And the only time that you'll be out of the bubble, guys, is when you're going in and out of your room. So if you're going to go eat to your room, sleep in your room, you wake up, time to go train. But we're really urging everybody to try to stay in their rooms as much as possible. And we will be monitoring. We do have certain staff members out there just kind of making sure that the guys are kind of and the girls are where they're supposed to be. We don't want people just roaming around and getting lost and getting outside the casino and finding other things to do because you know how it is. Fighters are fighters sometimes and they do crazy things. So we're monitoring them.
Yeah, those dates that you state, Scott, are those all for the Mohegan Sun? Or are you looking to possibly head out as quickly as possible?
No, we're committed to staying there for the time being. And honestly, guys, I think that the going to an arena with an audience, I don't think it's going to happen until early next year sometime. I don't think it's going to happen before the end of this year. I just don't. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we might extend our stay at the Mohegan Sun for another 3 months because everything is already there. The soundstage is built. All the announcer tables are built. The bubble is built. We have a system in place with the different testing labs that we're working with, and they come in there, and they actually are there from, I think, 7 a.m. to 12 noon, and we get the results back. And they do the proper swabbing and, the whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. And we get the results back because we have a deal with the lab there within, I want to say, 6 to 8 hours of the time. So you basically check in, you go get your test, you go into quarantine in your room, you have to stay in your room and eat. Test results come back. It's like this whole process throughout the week that we're engaging in.
Have you had any conversation with Andy Foster in California and any thoughts of possibly when California might start running shows?
Well, I read today that they're going to start doing fights here pretty soon.
Boxing,
and Andy,
right?
Yeah, boxing. Andy and Rich and myself were in close communication, and we were thinking about doing these fights in California at some point. But the one thing that kind of was a little bit of alarming for us is, California has become a little bit of a hotbed right now in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And so that kind of maybe steered us, because we've been monitoring the increase overnight numbers, right? So how many new cases are there overnight? In LA, there's 2,500. In Miami, there's 2,500. In San Jose, there's maybe 150. San Francisco, 30 or 40. But at the Mohegan Sun in the county there, the number might be like 29 or 20 or 18 per day. And so, it's we felt like it was a safe, county to bring our fighters to. And, we will be back to California, I think once things cool down a little bit, and we find a proper venue. That was one of the issues was finding a proper venue to have a long stay the way that we wanted to have, be able to park our trucks, hang up our gear, get everything going, and just basically, if it's fight night, go and turn the lights on and turn the trucks on, and and then you're in business, because it's not like having to take the gear, put it in a big semi, like however many semis we're running, and then take them across the country and then rehang it for the show that Saturday, and then the following Saturday we're in a different city. I mean, that's a lot of labor, a lot of cost, and we're trying to amortize some of these costs. And we were able to do that at the Mohegan Sun, and they had the availability of the arena, so we have a good relationship with them for a long time, working with them. So we made a great deal with them.
Last thing for me, kind of a two-parter. I'm kind of interested. I know that you've always had a busy schedule. You've kept a busy schedule for as long as I've known you, and like you said, that's been like 25 years. So my first thing is what did you do during this pandemic, even though it's still going? But I mean, there was times there where basically we seemed to be locked in our house and really couldn't do anything. And my second part is, have you been lucky enough to be tested already? Because it's a great experience.
Yeah, that nose swab, I had it done. I got my results today, actually, and it's negative. But that was not a pleasant experience at the clinic.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
Yeah, it makes me itch my nose actually right now. but as far as the time, I want to say in March, I came home. I remember on a Saturday, because the fights, we were supposed to have fights at the Mohegan Sun, ironically enough, and it was part of our tournament on DAZN, and so what happened was we decided to pull the plug that afternoon, because a lot of my staff started feeling uncomfortable. Donald Trump was coming on air. They said that he was going to pull the plug on travel internationally. We had some international fighters. People were freaking out. It was NBA had just shut down the day before. NASCAR shut down. And so we shut down as well. So we made the decision we're going to close camp, and we're going to go spend time with your family. By the time I got home, Gavin Newsom, Gavin Newsom was not the one that made this decision. It was the county of Santa Clara, where I live. I want to say the county health department said we're going on lockdown. So when I came home, Jeff, it was like, you're going on lockdown. And honestly, my first instinct was like, what? What do you mean? I can't go anywhere? Like this? They go, no, everything's closed. You don't understand. Like the whole county is going to get locked down. And I had no idea what that meant. And when I started, researching shelter in place, it didn't sound too attractive to me, because I'm like, okay, this is going to last for a couple weeks and 3 weeks or a month. And then it just kept going and going and going and going. And so, the first month, I would say, I reach out to my staff and the fighters, and I say, hey, just everybody relax. We'll be back. Just take a beat. This is a good time to, maybe reassess some of the things that are important to you in your life, and spend time with your family, and go do things that you want to do within your, community or whatever that you can do. So, everybody abided, but we were the first ones. I want to say by almost 2 weeks, even before 1 week before San Francisco, and then 2 weeks before LA. And so this county was on lockdown, and I think that's why the numbers are still good, because the lockdown happened really early on. So, but it was trying in the sense that you're not used to just staying home and, being on lockdown. And it's a weird feeling just for the government to tell you, hey, you need to be on lockdown. And honestly speaking, when I look back, it's probably the greatest thing that happened here, because the numbers that are happening on the East Coast, all the deaths and everything, it's like, we got probably a 2.5 week head start from the East Coast. And I think that they took a hit because, they just didn't have all the information or it just didn't work out. But, when I look at the numbers compared to California, and especially Northern California, to like the East Coast, our numbers are healthy. And so it's a crazy time, but I told my staff, just relax. I didn't even talk to my staff for about a month, to be honest with you, and then I re-engaged. We talked, we said, look, just be patient, guys, just be patient. Like we'll regroup. And when we do, it's going to be, full on time to go to work. And you're going to be looking back going, oh, I enjoyed those days at home with my family and hanging out with my kids and my dog, and but it really gave me a time to reflect for myself and set some new goals and really basically evaluate what's important, because this pandemic is a very serious situation worldwide. Look how many people it has impacted, and I think it was a time of reflection for me, and I told my staff, just I'll give you a call when it's time. And about 6 weeks ago, that's when I started calling everybody and re-engaging my team. So they're all ready to work. They're just, it's just different because there's no audience now. And there's, we're not in the ticket selling business. We're in the TV ratings business now only, in some international sales business. But, it's, to have the fights, I watched boxing last night, and some of the fights were great, but it just feels different, because when the way I explained it was like if you're in a football game and you're the home squad and it's the fourth quarter, it's that audience that gets you pumped up. And I think the fights are the same way. That fight crowd can get you, maybe sometimes can get you the win even, right? What I mean by that is they'll just just keep pumping up and and cheering for you. And like a guy like Kung Lee, who had or Frank Shamrock, that would pack the stadium here. I mean, when it was time to dig deep, the audience dug deep for them sometimes. Is my point. So, it's that's not going to be there now, and it's just a different time. I do think that like I said, we might have to deal with this for another 6 months, 8 months. I do believe there will be a point where a vaccine comes effective, and we will be able to use it, and then it'll go back to how it was. But until then, we're going to continue our fights, and I think that we'll be in a soundstage like we are at the Mohegan Sun right now for the next 6 months.
Scott, so let's talk about moving forward. The card that was supposed to be Mohegan that got canceled that day was going to have 2 of the featherweight Grand Prix tournament fights. That didn't happen. What is the challenge now of getting that tournament rebooted? What's the plan for that tournament the rest of the year? How soon can we expect to see those fights start up again?
That's a good question, Josh. And the reason why it's a tough answer is what's been really holding us back is the travel ban put on by the United States. So we can't get Gegard here like we want. Like we would love to have Gegard here to fight Douglas Lima. Excuse me. And then Pitbull. We can't get Pitbull in the country right now. All the fighters we have in Europe, they're having a hard time. And, listen, we have access to tremendous amount of legal team and government affairs, things like that. And, they're even having a hard time. So it's a government matter and political matter. So I think what we'll do is, if we can't get these guys in the country in a relative short amount of time, we might have to go to plan B, which is start throwing the fights in Europe, in the UK, and make them exclusively for all the non-USA athletes. But really the fighter ban has made an impact on us, and we're dealing with it, and we're trying our best. But right now, Josh, that gateway into this country is just not open.
Yeah, it's difficult. So is there a title fight that you think is the easiest one for you to make at this point, if it's not the tournament with that wide field? Is there a bout you can make with one of your champions that does make sense for the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the fights you'll see here in the near future is going to be Patrick Mix fighting Archuleta at some point. Great title fight and at 135, and I think that maybe we could put that fight together sometime in September. But I'm hopeful, Josh, that in the next couple weeks we will be able to start at least planning for some of these athletes to come in, because it's just we need these guys and girls to put on the correct fights, let's say, that we want to put on. And one of them is Nemkov, for fighting Bader. That's something that we're still interested in. And we've been talking to the Russian group there. And, that might be the first one, because that might be the easiest to get into the country out of all the other territories. So, but it's not finalized. It's not done. It's, we're still working on it, but, we got to get past this travel ban at some point.
Is this the most challenging moment of your promotional career? And if it is, can you look at the UFC and say they've done a great job? I mean, I know that sometimes it's difficult to throw accolades on a rival promotion or someone that you've had maybe not the strongest feelings for, but considering everything that's gone down, how difficult the world is, how challenging an event is this for you just as a professional matter? And then when you look at what your competition's doing, do you nod like some respect in their direction?
Listen, I have nothing against any other martial art fight league. To me, it's a certain style of business. Maybe I don't handle it that way, but at the end of the day, man, it's what they do is very difficult. What we do is very difficult. What their fighters do and our fighters do. I mean, really, it's really no different. I mean, we're in the MMA business, right? So, there's not this like animosity or anything like that from my side. But when I look at the risk that they took to be the first ones out, right? And people say whether it was financial or they had to do it or whatever. Listen, they took the risk, and they kind of paved the way for this to be acceptable, right? As far as being a difficult time in the promotion career, you know what it is, Josh? I would say yes, and the reason why is every day I wake up, I'm not you're not just focused on what you normally focus on, which is, putting events on sale, signing fighters, making strategic moves, doing international deals, doing sponsorship deals, right? I'm really, and my staff is focused on the COVID situation, right? And how it's impacting us and how we're, navigating around it. So it is taking up a lot of time, energy, resources. These tests are not cheap. I mean, I think that, when you talk about an event like this, I think each test runs us, I want to say $150 per person. But if by the time you add all the production crew, the fighters, and all the talent, everything like that, you're probably talking about 300 tests over a period of a week, and so it adds up. And that's the line item that will have to be there that we never thought would be there in January when we created our budgets. Right. So it's tough in that sense, is that our focus has to be split now. And so, we're in the business of COVID-19 and we're in the business of MMA, and that's just how it's going to be for a while.
Certainly is. And it seemed like mixed martial arts was one of the sports that could manage this, right? Mm-hmm. That you didn't need a massive stadium. You didn't need a huge staff. You didn't have teams with everything that comes along. Like, this is an individual sport. What guidance have you given to the fighters in the gyms and like how to prepare? Have you let it entirely up to them, or have you guys offered assistance, like ideas and the best way to prepare for the upcoming fights that you want them to compete on?
You know what? Honestly, Josh, we have kind of been hands off on how they interact inside the gym and how they train or when they train, and how they all basically get ready for the fight, because in a traditional sense we've never been involved, and unless things got worse. What I mean by that is that these athletes just couldn't pass a test, let's say, or we're getting sick, then we would jump in, and I think that we would say, hey, sometimes it's better to leave the trainer at home or train by yourself. I do know there's some fighters out there just training at home that you don't want to take the risk of going into a gym and being, in the middle of, a bunch of guys that, they know or they don't know, or they don't know where they've been. But I think that's really the main thing, is that traditionally we have not been involved, and we still haven't been involved. And we say this is the date, but we also leave this out there. Like, if you need anything, please let us know. Like, if you want to start your testing procedure way early, we're happy to do it. Let's get you dialed in and get you going and get you ready. But as far as, like, telling them when they can train, when they can't train, and kind of like that's really up to the trainer and the manager and the fighter.
Yeah. Last thing from me, and we'll let you go, Scott. The idea of putting on an event that captures the public's imagination at this point. I mean, everybody's thinking about so many different things. You have the hurdles of what's happening with the fighters, and obviously what's happening with international travel. How do you put together an event that captures, like, the imagination of the public? These tournaments seem to do that. Some of the fights that you're able to put on seem to do that. What do you is there a fight you can pull right now that says, we know that this is going to grab the public and they'll be tuning in either on Paramount or DAZN or wherever you guys are?
Well, I think, honestly, Josh, I think people want to see fights now. I'm that guy. I swear I was watching the Giants and the A's play last night. There's like nobody in the audience. It was like 3-2 or whatever. And it was like this empty feeling because there's just nobody there. But I'm that guy that'll watch, golf Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday last week, and then try to catch as many sports as I can, because there's just not a lot of sports out there right now that are live. And, so I hopefully we'll have some of that crossover that stays, just people that are hungry for sports in general, because if you're a sports junkie, you've been starved for a good 4 or 5 months. I think that's what being on Paramount or the fights that we put on. Listen, I was watching boxing last night. I didn't know any one of those people. Seriously, I did not. But I watched the whole thing because I just wanted to check it out. I just want to see live combat or something competitive live, and so I think people are still in that phase. But in that phase. But I do think, Josh, that, like, when you look at this Bandejas fight and Pettis, it's going to be a scrap. The Claxton fight is going to be a scrap. The Jordan Mean fight is going to be a great fight. So I think we're putting on great fights, and you will see all of our stars fight. Let's say before the end of October, you'll see all of our stars fight. I think you'll see Bader fight. You'll see Cyborg fight. You'll see hopefully Gegard fight, whether it's here or it's over there. But we could broadcast it back here on Paramount. You will see Douglas Lima fight. I think you'll see a Lima McFarland fight. You'll see all of our stars fight. It's just going to be a matter of when between now and October that we can schedule them and who they fight, because I do think that the travel ban will open up, but I think there's going to be another month or so. But I think that hopefully we'll be okay.
All right.
Is McKee on that list as well, Scott?
Oh man, he's in our tournament, so we got to get that tournament going. I mean, we have so much high hopes for that kid, and he's such a great personality and a great fighter. Comes from a great lineage, as you know. Pops. The only thing about Pops is he just can't talk that well. If he could only speak, No,
the time off probably helped him, Scott, didn't it? I mean, with recovery, he probably needed that time off, didn't he?
I think you're right. I think he needed that time off because of the knee and whatever, his injury or his ankle or something. But at the end of the day, when it comes to showtime, I think he'll be ready.
Scott Coker, thank you so much. Bellator returns on Friday. Check it out on Paramount Network or on DAZN. It's the start of what sounds like a busy calendar through the rest of the year for you guys. Best of luck, Scott. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm going to change the name of your show to the OG Show.
The OG Show?
What do you think?
Yeah, we like it. We got to work on the branding and some of the imaging, but I like it.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Take care. Scott Coker, our first guest. Jeff, what do you think of what Scott had to say about Bellator and their schedule coming up here through the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean that's smart, right? Put everything in one location and just run it.
Yeah.
That was Dana's plan from the start. I mean, he was going to originally start that at the Tachi Palace.
He was.
I mean, he was going to put everything there for a month and do it, and now we see him doing it. Abu Dhabi, so I mean, it makes sense, right? You don't got to move all over. They come to you. You can handle them with the quarantine and everything that needs to be done. makes it easier.
It does make it easier. And I think having him in that one venue, like he said, sharing that space with Showtime, really kind of indicative of the kind of, I think, relationship that we're going to see between Bellator and Showtime in the years ahead. I think that there's no doubt that they are connecting in terms of their game planning, their mindset, what they want to accomplish together. And it's kind of a neat idea, right? It kind of makes sense. Makes sense if the production values are, kind of similar and you're using kind of the same space and same resources and you're part of the same company. I mean, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of common sense, right? I mean, you save – the bottom line is money, right? And just like Scott said, things have changed a little bit. They're not about selling tickets right now.
Yeah.
It's entertainment on TV. That's what it comes down to. You don't have to worry about promoting, locally and trying to get, local guys to fight on the card so they could sell tickets and things like that. It's kind of changed. The dynamics changed a little bit. So, we'll see. And probably just about the time that everyone gets used to and totally gets this down, then it's going to open up and we'll be able to do whatever we want to do again.
Yeah. So that's Friday night for Bellator. On Saturday, the UFC continues its run of fights. It's been very busy. I think this will be the fourth in 2 weeks for the UFC in Abu Dhabi, Fight Island. Good card. I mean, they referenced it off the top. Robert Whittaker is fighting Darren Till. That would be the main event. It is a 7-fight main card, 15 fights total, Jeff. It's like the old school. It's like you get a cage card, 15 fights. When was the last time a UFC had 15 fights on it? I can't even – I don't know that I remember that it has. When's the modern UFC had 15 fights on it?
Right. That's crazy. That's and I'm wondering if maybe they're starting to schedule a little more in case something falls out.
I think they got to get fighters fights by certain dates, and you've clearly seen these Fight Island a venue has been the international talent predominantly, right? I mean, that's swallow up most of the card space. Few Americans, some maybe once in a while you get a Brazilian or two, but it's a lot of Europeans and a lot of people from different parts of the world coming in. That was the whole premise of Fight Island to begin with, and I think it's really worked for them. And I thought it was interesting to hear Scott talk about the potential of going overseas to get their international fighters some bouts. Ireland would make a lot of sense. It was interesting that he mentioned Russia. So, they have some flexibility. They've done a lot in Europe with their partnerships through Viacom, now Viacom CBS, and clearly the UFC has the flexibility over there in Fight Island. Let's talk about this Whittaker-Till fight. Return of the Reaper, Jeff. Robert Whittaker's a hell of a fighter. He's been a tremendous fighter for a long time. He's a guy who's been through some wars. So just checking out his record right now. I mean, it's like, what are we getting here out of Robert Whittaker at this stage of the game? Last fight was a stoppage against Israel Adesanya. Unbelievable finish that was. He'd been on a tear, 2 wars with Yoel Romero, a war with Jacare. He's gifted, but hard to say what he's got left. I expect him to have quite a lot. If he is Robert Whittaker, he has to beat Darren Till in a way that is kind of emphatic, right? Do you see him as a level above Darren Till if he's 100%?
I think that's still out for question because, I mean, you talked about the two Romero fights. I mean, man, those it's fights like that you watch and in the back of your mind, like, this is just taking time off of this person's life. I mean, to be brutally honest, I mean, that's, and Robert Whittaker's been in a few of those. So I think we'll have to wait and see. I think this is a very exciting fight for that reason, because there's a little bit of a question. We have to remember Robert Whittaker is still only 29 years old. So, and Darren Till is even younger. But I see if both of these guys come in and Robert Whittaker still is Robert Whittaker, man, we're in for a treat.
Sure.
Especially after sitting through 14 fights.
Yeah. Well, I think the 14 fights, some good, some not so good.
Yes.
The main event's certainly one worth waiting for, or DVR the thing and catch up, or time out your schedule, whatever it is. But the main event's a fight you should probably watch. I think if you look up and down this card, the co-main, look, rightly so, I think has been maligned a little bit, if I'm going to be – I mean, it should be because, you're talking about fighters who are so beyond where they were in the primes of their career.
Right.
Again, Mauricio Shogun Rua, Antonio Rogerio Nogueira. Like, it's almost like you just want to think about 2005 again and sort of forget what this is. Do you remember that fight in 2005? I mean, of course you do, but
Critical Countdown.
Yeah, that was 2005. You remember we gave Shogun the co-fighter of the year at SureDog.
Right.
Yeah, him and Takanori Gomi shared that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there's still something inside of me that gets a little excited for fights like this, and I don't know why. Maybe I'm just dumb or something, but still, when I see a fight like this, like old school pride, even though the fighters are way beyond their prime, they've been through tons of battles and everything, there's still just something about it that excites you a little bit, at least for me. So
yeah, I think sometimes. I mean, they did it in 2015, and
it
was a good fight again. I think it's interesting matchmaking. I don't know how to feel about it, quite honestly.
It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird that they put those two against each other again, but I'm a little excited to see, how Gustafsson looks as a heavyweight.
Yeah.
I mean, against Werdum, Werdum can't look much worse than he looked his last fight. So,
no, he can't.
Yeah, that was, when you make Alexei look like a world-class striker, something's wrong.
That was a weird performance from Fabricio Verdum.
It was.
Very strange. Especially considering how great he was for a stretch in his career. Mm-hmm. That was an odd performance. But for Gustafsson to move up, he's got a big frame, but he was always slender. So it'll be interesting to see how he carries his weight.
Right.
He'll have a striking advantage against Fabricio Verdum, but what's going to happen when they lock up? Verdum grappling-wise will have a lot of edges, I think. And if he wins the fight, it'll probably be there.
Maybe it was just rust for Werdum last fight. Who knows? Maybe he comes out and looks a lot better.
Maybe. Who knows with the rust from Gustafsson, right? This is the guy who retired. He said he did it in haste. But when you say that and then you come back and you're coming in a weight class where you didn't have to really train like crazy to get in shape, leaves me wondering. Right. Is there anything else on this card, Jeff, that's caught your attention? I imagine you'll be sitting through all 15 fights.
Probably not. I'll probably just catch like the last 4 or 5. I like the Paul Craig fight. And there's some other guys. I like watching Francisco Trinaldo fight. There's some other guys in here. Nicholas Dalby, guys that I personally like to watch fight. That doesn't necessarily mean that you like to see them fight or somebody else. Sometimes there's special reasons why I like to watch somebody fight, but for the most part, the main event is what's going to do it for everyone in this Saturday night, and I'm just hoping that Whitaker comes back as Whitaker of old, or Whitaker that hasn't changed, and him and Darren Till just put on a battle to the end.
Yeah, I would expect they would, as long as it lasts. So that's a busy weekend. We're getting back to these full weekends of mixed martial arts now. We got Bellator on Friday, solid night of fights. I actually think like that lineup fight-wise, match-made-wise is really intriguing. And then you got the full bore, the 15 fights on Saturday with the UFC. That's an ESPN card. So you can catch that on ESPN. Main event, Robert Whitaker, Darren Till, could determine quite a lot in the middleweight division. We'll see, especially for Whitaker coming back. He could immediately put himself back in that conversation at the top of that weight class. Jeff, thank you so much. Thanks again to Scott Coker for joining us. Thank you to all of you who watched and listened to this. Please subscribe and hit that notification button. You'll be made aware next time we go live, or you get these things when they pop up on YouTube. That's it for The Outsiders this week. I am Josh Gross for Jeff Sherwood. Thank you very much.